A really important lesson that I learned over time is to be able to let it go. Your best work is only your best work if it works with the film. I'm Brian Tyler, musician and writer. I've written a lot of film scores, like Avengers Age of Ultron, in the Fast and Furious movies, Power Rangers. I've also worked with a lot of different artists producing, like Wiz Khalifa and Ty Dolla $ign and Kill the Noise and Ray Strummer. Also, my film scoring music and my film compositions, I like taking that on the road and conducting orchestras and performing my film music live as well. A film is leading the way, and that's what's influencing what I'm gonna write, how I'm gonna write, all those things. I think the best way and the most efficient way to write music for a film is to come up with the central themes first. And for me, that usually means sitting down at the piano. My technical process and creative process of writing music has been influenced by me knowing about film. When I'm writing music, I can see connections between how I write a certain kind of augmented chord or a certain tempo shift or a tempo ramp with certain things that are done with the camera. When you push in the seriousness of the scene, it usually means something's happening and the music kind of goes down and becomes more grave. There's all these weird things that you kind of start connecting, but the reason why you're connecting it is because it's a part of the process of film. So we're here at my studio cockpit area. It's really where I'm situated when I'm mixing or I'm mocking up. I write in Pro Tools and record in Pro Tools. I actually sequence in Pro Tools as well. I'm really more of a tracker. I'll go in and I play things in manually. I like to commit just creatively to writing a certain way. It's more difficult to change later, but it's just like how I do it. Those kind of sounds, I'll just record them and come up with ideas, and it becomes like a more eclectic vibe, and that's why you see so many percussion instruments. No one percussion instrument sounds the same. When I was doing some stuff for XXX, these timbali patterns became a big part of the score. It actually influenced the way I used my samples. They had to kind of go with this sound. If these didn't happen to be sitting here, the score would actually sound totally different. This will make you write in 7. Just if you're messing about, jumping back and forth, you're gonna think rhythmically differently. Everything from my studio is piped in through preamps all the way into a machine room. Then I have over here VE Pro, and it houses a bazillion sample libraries. How it is interfaces in my Pro Tools session, I have a single MIDI track for every sound that's loaded in VE Pro. At any one time, I can use a iPad interface here to scroll through, find a sound just by searching, or like a technique, harmonics on the harp, for instance, and you type that in, boom, and it'll automatically take you there, because we found is there's so many sounds that you can't just search through and go, where, it'll just take a million years. I have this control surface which I can control just my basics. It's more for mixing in a live meeting setting when I need to balance dialogue, effects, and the music, and I can do that just really easily here. Having it pre-mixed is just not an option. Directors are going to be sitting in the room, producers, and sometimes they're like, hey, I don't really want to hear the dialogue as much. Can you bring that down, pump the music up? I want to hear that, or the other way around, or whatever. And so I can do that on the fly. Scoring film is a very unique mode of writing music. In film, you're working with a number of bandmates that have a hierarchy influence over you. This is the strange thing. It's like I'm the lead songwriter, but the director is the star who's the singer in the band or something like that. And what's cool is that I happen to have been hooked up with a lot of different directors over the years who I'm become very good friends with that all like completely different kinds of music. It's almost like you're in 10 different bands at the same time. So I think an important part of what I do is to really actually know the different genres. How do you produce that stuff? How do you get in? How do you write it? What's the vibe? Electronic music, symphonic music, Baroque, jazz. You don't want to ever be kind of caught in the lane where you feel like you're just faking it. You really need to imbue yourself with all those things. Fast and Furious theme. That's like such a rhythmic thing. And that came from me sitting down and kind of doing like a calypso thing on the drums. Then I did the orchestra around it. That's not usually how I do things. So sometimes I'll just like coming in here and something will give me an idea. Now you see me with that lick. That started off the score because if I played that on the piano, it wouldn't have that tinge of kind of the old school mystery. I like to keep everything mic'd up. I have a single button that I hit here and it's like a quick key and it brings up my whole mix template for drums. If I'm in a groove creatively, you don't want to like slow down and stop for your technical process. I just find the more I have around, the more possibilities kind of present themselves.
Let's go,
I also have a career as Madsonik. Here's my basic Madsonik rig for live shows. I use Pioneer, the CDJ, the 2000 NXS2s. And then this board, which is new, they just came out with this one, the DJM 900 NXS2 as well. It's awesome, great faders. So pretty much anything you need is at your fingertips. Sometimes I'll have like score music over here going, vocal shouts and a drum loop over here, and then a song here. And I remember when I was working on the last Fast and Furious movie, I would play drums in that room, track it into Pro Tools, and then I would bring it in here and then kind of mix it and remix it. And you come up with ideas even for scoring through these, especially on certain kinds of music. You can really tweak stuff. Things you only can do live when you're doing it instead of sitting there with a mouse and a click and a pointer and space bar. And it's very different when you can kind of tactily do it under your fingertips. It's really important to try to represent your final vision as well as you can. You don't want to find yourself falling into the trap of having something really great being rejected out of hand that they might have loved in the end. Using mock-ups that and really concentrating on how can I make things sound as realistic as possible. The process on this piece is for The Mummy, the main title of the movie. But the thing is, it didn't start as the main title. I wrote this piece as a general thematic piece for the film to get myself and the director grounded in some thematic material. Once I mocked it up, it became kind of a part of the movie more than I even knew, and they ended up cutting a sequence for the main title around my mock-up. It was great because then by the time we got to Abbey Road to conduct it, it was like a concert. People knew the piece. And we recorded a full orchestra at Abbey Road and also did a full choir at Abbey Road. My favorite thing is when they just all play together, and that's the take we use, and that's what we have here. This is one of those cases where nothing changed. The original intent, everything along the way, was the way that you hope when you're writing something. I did this from day one, even when I lived in a tiny apartment with a couple microphones. I would try to imbue it with some humanity. I would mic up a snare drum. I would throw in my voice way in the background. I would do something live, something that had dirt to it, that had the imperfections that samples usually polish off. When I'm actually doing a mock-up and recording all the other elements that may go along with the orchestra. I am mixing it as we go, and I want it perfect, even in the mock-up. So then when I go and we do the final mix, it's pretty much balancing the live orchestra with all the other elements that I've already done, but those are mixed. Social media has opened this up to a more immediate sense. You get things ahead of time. When I'm doing a session and I'm conducting, we film it and we just kind of throw things up online and be like, hey, this is the process, this is what it's like. Because for me, that's what I wanted to see when I was a kid. I would have killed to have seen the sessions from all these movies that I loved and the scores that I loved. You ready for some singing? Yeah! All right. Okay. Main title, here we go. You're a filmmaker if you're a film composer. No matter how good of a writer you are, you're not going to be able to communicate with a director who is your collaborator if you don't know film. Because a director is going to speak film, they're not going to speak music. Know how scenes are blocked, know how editing's done, know how lenses work, know lighting. All of those things are going to help you. It's a process of always educating yourself. This building, this studio, is on my property where I live, so I can just commute by walking. First thing I did when I walked in, I was like, whoa, this would be amazing for strings. And like, you know, I can put in XLRs and cables and whatnot down here and a monitor and do anything. I can put some strings in here. Drum kit is really loud and obnoxious. The Steinway in here too has this kind of like, you know, big. I never really finish a music project. It just kind of ends at some point in the process of making it. I think if I had like 30 years to work on an album, I probably would do it for 30 years and just change. So at any given point, be like, here's this version of it, and that goes out to the world. It's a snapshot of what the idea was at the time of which we ran out of time.